What's going on, Star Wars fans?
Hello there.
We are back. It is Wednesday evening. Mike and Nick are here with me. Derek is he's got an event tonight, so he's not going to make it. So it's just he just got the three of us. So hopefully we'll have fun with that. We had a couple comments in here already. So thanks everybody for joining us. See who's up here. Max obviously is already here. Jarvo, Lane is here. Thank you guys for jumping in. And Jessica's here as well. So mom and dad are here. What's up?
Great. What's up, mom and dad? As always,
Maul,
thanks for coming.
Yeah, Maul 3 and 4 episodes. It's getting pretty cool. I'm really enjoying this. I'm not at a 10 yet. I'm pretty close. I'm definitely at a 9 for sure, but not at a 10 yet. But I think all of us pretty much will be by the end. We're trying a new thing here, and I don't know if this. Oh, there it goes. Sweet, look at that.
Whoa. Look at us.
So we have a poll, and I did it. So, Nathan, what's going on? Darth Plagueis lives. Appreciate you guys jumping on. We're going to talk a little bit about Maul Shadow Lord. We're going to talk some Ahsoka. We're going to talk some Mandalorian and Grogu as well, because there's lots of stuff that's sort of popping off. And in my short, or in my the thumbnail today, I was talking about some of the things that are actually going on, and we really haven't seen too much about Ahsoka, which is sort of surprising. I think we'll probably get some stuff coming up here soon, but I think they're also going to concentrate, as we all know, Maul's out, the trailers are out, the shorts are out, all that stuff's going on, and Mandalorian and Grogu, we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit, but that media is going to start getting hyped up. We're a month and a half away, so I think that's going to be pretty cool. So we'll go right ahead and start with Maul. We got our little poll up there, so if you guys don't mind, let us know what you thought about Maul. Put it in the chat. And Mike, I know you talked a lot about it yesterday.
Yeah.
Nick, what's your thoughts on 3 and 4?
Yeah, I'm same as you. I'm not at a 10 yet. I don't remember what my ratings were last week. But I do think I told you guys that I have like a animation and live action separation. So I want to say I'm still like an animation 8.9. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because Mike made a point last week, like I was at 9s and 10s for Andor, and it's no fault of Maul Shadow Lord. It's a different thing. So for me, like the adjustment is I feel good about a high 8. I love that it's already kind of like right into it while still building the actual, what I think was the actual plot of the show, and yeah, I have no complaints. No, not that I would, but no complaints and a lot of questions, but I'm kind of confident that they'll be answered. So
yeah, I think absolutely that's what's going to happen. And as we ended this week on episode 4, obviously we're going to get the Empire this week coming up, which will be pretty cool. Hopefully we'll get the Inquisitors like we've talked about. I think we will, just because of the name of the episodes this week, which is pretty cool. So I think I got that right up there. Oh, no, that's actually pretty cool too.
Yeah,
so we'll talk about that in a second. I'm going to switch back here, Nick, and find my other one. But the names of the episodes. There we go. So so I think this is going to be pretty cool, and I think we are going to get Inquisitors in reference to this. How do you even pronounce that? Mike, say that for me, will you?
I think it's Inquisition, but that's what I've been calling it.
Yeah. And then
Inquisition works in many different ways with the Inquisitor, of course.
Yeah, and I think that's where we're gonna end up this week, which I think is going to be amazing. And that's one of the things that I've been trying to really look forward to. I think they've done some great job in the trailer, bringing these Inquisitors in, especially with the scare factor that we've been talking about as well. So I thought it was pretty cool how they ended it. But they also give us a lot more of what's going on. We see a little bit more of Devin and her master. I definitely think that the Inquisitors are going to take him out this week. Maybe not, but definitely we're going to get some stuff this week with the Inquisitors. But the whole build up to this, again, we're like they had talked about. I know with the coffee cups and with Brander Lawson, being that stereotypical police and having the coffee cups around. But again, and fortunately, I know because that's what I did for a while. Is the time thing, with his son, he wants to be there, but the job calls, and sometimes you have to, do your job, so you might miss a game or two or something like that. And I also think a big thing, I think they mentioned it, and I think it could be possibly a big part. I don't know yet, but his ex-wife working for the Empire, I think, is a pretty cool twist that we got in here, along with him being in that first comic, how they talked about him being a bounty hunter. So we're definitely going to get some cool things in reference to that. So, Mike, what's your take?
Yeah, no, I was in the high 8s last week for the first 2 episodes, and now I'm in the low 9s. Like, I thought this was a better week, I guess, for lack of a better word. Like, episode 3 and 4, I think were both better than episode 1 and 2. And I loved episode 1 in particular, just because of the introduction to all these new characters, but also explaining what happened with Maul throughout those 2 years. Now, honestly, I was way wrong when it came to my predictions this week. Episode 3 and 4, I thought were just going to be about the Pikes, just, maybe even get some Crimson Dawn or Black Sun in there. But no, we went straight into the tea ceremony, straight into the training sequence, incredible lightsaber duel of Master Ego Dio and Devin versus Maul. We did not skip a beat. And like Nick said, they're going for it. It's 10 episodes. We're already almost halfway through the season, but they are not messing around. There's no filler anywhere in this series, and it's great. So, yeah, I'm in the low 9s for sure. I think the setup is incredible for next week's episodes with the Inquisitors showing up and the Empire showing up. But, Ron, if you want to pull up those titles again, episode 5 obviously is Inquisition, which is in reference to the Inquisitors. But episode 6 being Night of the Hunted is pretty crazy too. So I'm guessing that's in reference to the Jedi being hunted. And we're going to get to see, I assume, from the perspective of the Inquisitors from the Empire as they hunt down a Jedi. Like, what's the process of that? And maybe that's what Night of the Hunted is about. And then, of course, they'll figure out that Maul is here. And then they'll have to, go, my lord, Maul lives. And Vader shows up. And then we all have a Merry Christmas. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think they've done a really, really great job of just sort of tying everything in here. So 50 Thunder, thanks for joining us. 730 Evie, appreciate you guys jumping on here. Papa Boz is here. Dave, who loves that loves Star Wars, is here. So thank you guys all for jumping in. We're talking Maul. So let us know. It's sort of interesting. I thought I'll put it back up here again, but we're at 67% of people that liked it. So we're not loving it yet, which I thought was which I think is pretty interesting. I thought that a few more people would be loving it, because I think the three of us do. So I think, but it's interesting to see that some people they like it, which is cool, and I'm all for that. So I like that people are liking it, and I think that it's going to get better and better. And I think there was a reason that they let some of these content creators and different people like that watch the first 8 episodes, because I think it will be changing a lot for those last 2 episodes. I think we're going to get a big cliffhanger. And I think because they have already announced season 2, they didn't want to do possibly, and I think maybe they did learn from the Acolyte. And let me see if you guys think this. We have Plagueis, guys like us at the end are like, yeah, Plagueis and this and that, and we all think we're going to get a season 2 and this and that. So I think there was probably a pretty big cliffhanger at the end of this, and they're letting us know that there will be a season 2. So we're not like let down again, like some of us hardcore fans that really like the Acolyte, and now we're not getting a season 2. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, announcing season 2 before season 1 was just genius because people were already excited for season 1, and now you have so much more to get excited for because you know that this is not going to be canceled. You know that there's going to be more story. And for people who were like, this is the next Tales of the Jedi, that was thrown out the window because this is a multi-season show. This is going to be your next Bad Batch or Rebels or Clone Wars, and it could span for 3, 4, 5, 6 seasons. Maybe not that many, but it could go for a long time. So I think doing the season 2 announcement before was just smart.
Yeah, I think it's smart, and it helps kind of not that you need it, but it helps you kind of sit back and digest a little bit. Like it's not going to be over when these episodes are over. Gives them more leeway on whatever story they are going to be telling us or plan to tell. I think the Acolyte reference that even had like an extra layer of interesting because they kind of went out of their way beforehand to say it's a standalone 1-season thing. And as we're watching it, we're thinking like, man, I feel like this was written for 2 seasons, as we got along. So it's a little bit of a different thing. I like the heads up, on the front end that this is going to be a multi-season thing. And, we had made some predictions a few weeks ago that, how many seasons it could go, but more importantly, like what kind of timeline is Maul Shadow Lord covering? And if we're getting a larger timeline than just right now on Janix, then yeah, we probably do need a couple of seasons to bridge all that time from, Clone Wars to Rebels or Solo, whatever. So I think it's a smart move to tell us ahead of time. And it also might build some confidence too. Like, okay, this is going to be good. It's already greenlit. It's here to stay. I better watch it,
Yeah.
We don't need that kind of confidence, but we're going to watch it regardless. But yeah.
Yeah, welcome, Jan. The hunt for Chimera. That's pretty good. Yeah, we have had an Acolyte already reference, so that's pretty good. We're
might be our earliest yet.
Yeah.
I know we've talked about this before on this podcast over and over again, but the fact that this show is called Maul just makes people more excited for it. So the fact that you greenlit a second season is one thing, but people were already more excited for Maul Shadow Lord than they ever were for the Bad Batch. And the Bad Batch ended up being a great show, but when it was first announced, we were like, okay, cool. The guys from Clone Wars season 7, that'll be fun, I guess. But this is Maul. Like, we're talking about Maul, Darth freaking Maul. So it's a whole nother beast. And that's why more people are watching it. That's why it's #1 on Disney Plus. And that's why it's got 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. And a 96 from audience score, by the way. Still.
Yeah, which is fantastic, I think, and it helps it out. And I think I was reading some stuff, and Mike, correct me, or somebody in the chat, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think a lot of the animation is actually getting a little bit higher of a score. And I thought it was interesting. I don't know if it was Jarvo or I think it was Max that said that he's saving his 10 for the live action, which is fantastic. Because I love them both, but it's a little bit different than what most people are thinking. You have that Maul name there, so you have people come in to see that, and I think that's also what's going to sort of transpire when we get into Mandalorian and Grogu. You have that Mandalorian name, you have the Grogu character, so that's going to hype that up. But I think when you have that Maul name, it's bringing people in already. Where Mike, like you said, yeah, Bad Batch, we were all like, oh, okay, we'll get to see the, whatever, enhanced troopers or, clone whatever. And then it turned into be a great story. It ties in with Necromancer and different things like that. So I think it's really cool that we're getting this, and Maul is just crushing it right now. And I think that will help. As much as we don't think Disney's dead, or, I mean, Star Wars is dead because of Disney, I think that this is helping people that think that come back into Star Wars again and be like, okay, I need to watch this series.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's proving, I guess, the point that Star Wars is not dead. Not that point needed to be proven. I don't know what people are looking at here.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, Maul just draws in a whole nother crowd.
Yeah.
And going back to that whole saving my 10 for live action. there's Star Wars is tough because some of the animation stuff is better than like most of the live action stuff. And not that makes one worse than the other, but there is so much 10 out of 10 live action things in Star Wars, like Empire, like, again, personally for me, Revenge of the Sith and all that. But there's also Ahsoka, oh wait, what was that one? Yeah, the Acolyte. No, but but there is so much 10 out of 10 or peak, whatever you want to call it, whatever title you want to give it, animation as well. Like you look at arcs of the Clone Wars or even whole seasons of Rebels or season 3 of Bad Batch or Tales, there's so much of it. So
yeah, and that's just it with everything, all of it. So go ahead, Nick.
I was just gonna say I think this might lead to like how it's judged differently on Rotten Tomatoes or something, that there are also like different things that it can be critiqued for. Like it does seem that Lucasfilm kind of leads the way on animation practices and trying out new things. Like Maul, even like stylistically, looks different from Bad Batch. Bad Batch looked a little different from Clone Wars, even Clone Wars Season 7. Clone Wars Season 7 looked different from Clone Wars. Rebels looks different from all of them. So I think that plays into maybe some of the excitement. Like we didn't know when we were watching Season 7 of Clone Wars, to my knowledge, that Ahsoka and Maul's confrontation was motion capture.
Yeah.
Right. And then they said it was, and then you can tell. But that's like a huge feat. And that alone can affect, a lot of people's excitement that aren't just Star Wars fans. Like if they're into that kind of thing, like this is somewhat of peak animation. So from the trailer up until now, Maul has kind of had its own style. And I think that does influence how you like judge the show. Obviously, the story is going to be good and interesting, and in a way you can kind of do more with an animated show than you can with a live action show. But I lost my train of thought, to be honest with you, but I think it's like judged differently. And it looks great, and that's part of it, right?
Well, and I think that's the part for Disney, for me, is the story. Like we've talked about on this podcast a bunch of times with the animation. People are just like, especially the older crowd, especially people my age, they're like, I'm not watching a freaking cartoon. I'm like, okay, that's fine, but you will get so much more out of these stories when you watch this stuff. And that's part of it for me, whether the animation is good or bad. Like you said, Mike, with Rebels, fantastic, freaking fantastic. Animations, for that, but the storyline in that, the characters in that they build on, and the things that we get to see, we have Ahsoka in there, we have Maul in there, and then we have the whole Ghost crew. So you have all of that stuff, and you're learning all these things, and I think that's really cool where they continue to use that and build on these stories, even if it is an animation. And if you're a true Star Wars fan, I think this is the way to go, because you don't have to spend, obviously they spend a bunch of money on this, but you're not spending as much money as a movie or a live action or anything like that. So,
I don't really know what the numbers look like, but you got to assume that making an animated series is a lot cheaper than making a live action show. Just the sets alone and it paying the actors. I'm sure actors who are voice actors get paid a lot less. Just all of it is probably a lot less. And that's why animated series are a lot longer and last longer, and because it's cheaper to do. I did just misread the chat completely, and Holly just came in and said, I just came back from choir rehearsal, but I read chair rehearsal. So I don't know how you rehearse a chair, but I'm sitting in one right now, so I'm doing chair rehearsal too.
It can be done.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us, Holly. Appreciate it. And let us know how chair rehearsal goes. Devin, I feel like she made a huge impact this week. I think we see her.
We might as well throw this up.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's our character for the week.
Love it.
So I think what we saw of her I thought it was a little timid. for her last week. And I think most people would agree. And then, okay, she finally gets it. She escapes, but then we get this tea party, which is cool. Which somebody said earlier in the chat. But when she starts to fight, and the amount of skill that we see already with her fighting, I'm looking forward to these Inquisitors coming, because I think as much as the lightsaber duels these past 2 episodes, fantastic. When you get both of these Inquisitors come in, and the other 3 are going to fight, it's going to be phenomenal. And when she screams like she did, and I know Mike, you had talked about that as well, you start to see some of that rage come out in her. And obviously we know where this is going to go, whether it's going to be talent or not. We see her going in that direction. And I think I don't think her master sees that yet. And I think it'll be interesting to see what's going on as she continues, as we continue in the next few episodes, because we're going to have to turn her, I think, before season 2. Would you guys agree?
Yeah,
No.
I think maybe not fully, but she'll definitely. We're in episode 3 and 4, and you're already seeing it like so much through, not just her losing it on Maul in that lightsaber fight, but earlier on in that 3rd episode, when Maul is saying how they are very similar. The same people that killed her Jedi Order also killed his brother and his mom, and he's talking about all these things. And you see her go to grab the cup of tea to join him in this whatever ceremony. And then he says something like, "So we are similar," or something like that, whatever he says. And as soon as he says that, she stops reaching for the tea and uses the Force to grab the lightsaber instead, because she goes, "Nope, we're not the same. That can't possibly be true." So you're already seeing that, her go, okay, maybe I'm getting comfortable with this guy. And then in the lightsaber fight at the end of episode 3, she's losing it. And then in episode 4, when Maul's talking to them right before their epic lightsaber duel, and he's saying, the Jedi, they were these great people, and how you guys are just surviving. Maybe you shouldn't be. You're these really talented people who could help take down this empire. You could be helping me instead. It's a close-up on Devon's face, and she's just like, holy crap, this guy's right. That's what her face says the entire time. So you're already seeing it, and we're still in the first half of the season where she's already going, maybe Maul's right. Maybe what this guy is saying is correct, because the Empire is bad. I've spent the last 2 or 3 or whatever amount of years it's been hiding from these guys, the same guys who just murdered all my friends. So maybe we should be working with this guy.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's part of it, where we know that he's already been persuasive, or we know he's going to be persuasive in reference to these things when he talks to Ahsoka, when he's talking to Ezra. I mean, he's very persuasive, and he's not wrong. That's my thing, is as much of a bad guy as he is a bad guy, he's not wrong. Yeah. He's telling the truth. I mean, he might be bending some things a little bit here and there, but again, they both don't want to have anything, or nobody wants the Empire there. The Empire's bad, or worse than Maul. And I think that's where we get to see him in. I think my favorite part of him is being able to do that, because we know him as this typical just bad guy, killing people, killing Qui-Gon. We all just were like, screw you, Qui-Gon was great and you just killed him. But then as he comes back and we see his transition, through the Clone Wars, through what we already know in Rebels is going to happen, you have this guy, or this person, being able to be that bad malice of, just anger and revenge, but also very truthful. And hey, I'm bad, but these guys are worse. And that's what this series is about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think you both are right. I don't see her needing to turn, or maybe fully turning with him. I think I'm sticking with my prediction that it's mutual, because he's right. It's mutually beneficial for them to work with each other right now. So maybe he wants an apprentice. I don't know what these supposed visions are about for him, where he's, sees he's going to have an apprentice. I don't think she is going to end up on board with doing that. But I think, maybe Mike, you're going to love this. I think her master's going to get killed. And she's going to realize, like, my best bet here is to align with this guy. Because it's a great line that they have a common enemy, and that's good enough for Maul, I do think, immediately when we meet her, I do think her master knows she's struggling with it, because the second we meet her, he knows, like, hey, don't even think about stealing that fruit. Yeah. And then she does it, and he's like, like he's used to it, and knows that she's impatient, knows that, she's possibly manipulatable. But I think she really, really cares about him. I don't think she would join Maul right under the current circumstances. I think something needs to happen. I don't think she's going to fully join him either. Yeah. But who knows? I think it's a little bit like they said kind of behind the scenes, that we're not going to expect her relationship with Maul to be the way it is. So I think she might kind of hate him the whole time, but that's what he needs out of her anyway. Yeah.
I don't think they're going to ever get to a place where they're like best friends, but I'm sure Maul has some manipulation skills that he can tap into. I will say, and I want to ask you guys this too, what's funny about the character of Devin is that even through the first 2 episodes, we all knew the character's name. And I was actually talking to one of my friends about the show because he had watched the first 2 episodes. And I said, well, what'd you think? And he was like, it was good, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what do you think of the Devin girl? And he was like, who? But and he wasn't wrong. We don't know her name until the end of episode 3. And I just guess because we are crazy and we know everything about Star Wars. We know everything about Star Wars. No, because we know everything behind the scenes. We read all the articles. We know her name is Devin. Like, that's not a surprise to us. But to other people who don't follow all the news like we do, they wouldn't know. But my question to you guys is, how do you think Maul knows her name? Because Maul is like, what's your name? And then she doesn't tell him. And then he knows it by the end of the episode.
Well, Nick, I'll let you answer it because I listened to your podcast yesterday and I also read up on some of the things. But
yes,
Nick,
I have an actual answer to this. So
yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm going to play the mysterious ways card with the Force, classic Star Wars thing. Yeah. I just feel like there's a lot of, we kind of like power scale people on who could win in a fight and all that stuff and how strong they are. But I think if you're pretty attuned with like your Force abilities, you can get in people's heads pretty easy, and I think he can learn it. We see it all the time, and we never really, it's so common in Star Wars that we never really like think about it or talk about it. But a lot of the time, these Force users can like kind of read your mind a little bit, or you don't know you're projecting something. So I'm going to chalk it up to that he knows, because he like, I don't know, interrogated her without her knowing, that sort of thing. Yeah. Could also be his little droid when they did the prison break. If she gave her name, or if that is her like cover name as a Jedi, then she would have been arrested under it.
Well, they didn't.
Yeah, she wouldn't give her name when she got arrested.
Yeah, she didn't give her name when she got arrested. Yeah.
So maybe not that, but
that's a good scenario, because sure, why would he not just get into the files and be like, oh, okay, here she is right here. Here's her name. Yep. And then
he knows everything right. He thinks he needs to know about Lawson.
Absolutely.
He knows that a lot of people. So I think with enough like focus and meditation, he could probably figure a lot out about her, especially if she's in the middle of being a Padawan. Like, it's probably, you can see it from a mile away if you're someone like Maul and someone like her. I don't know, but I don't know what the leading theories are, but that's kind of where I jumped to.
Right.
The leading theory is
before you
bonkers.
answer, hang on.
Okay.
Hang on. But I also think, like you were talking about, Nick, the Force, because we have in Ahsoka, or I guess was it Boba Fett, whenever Ahsoka met Grogu, they're not communicating, but she can talk to him and he can talk to her, and that's how she finds out his name. So there could be a little bit of that, but I like the answer, and I think that's pretty cool. Whether it comes to fruition, and I don't know, Mike, maybe in the last 24 hours it has come to fruition, and we've had a confirmation on that. But I like the theory, and go ahead and say that.
Yeah, no, we have had zero confirmation on this, which is awesome. I mean, you love a little fan theory going around. I think it's one of two things, and I'll give you the second thing will be the leading theory right now. But it could be the Force visions that Maul was having in the first episode. Like, he is talking about he's having visions because Rook Cast's like, did you have another vision? He's like, yeah, of course. That's something new to us. So him having visions, that vision could easily tell him the name of this girl because he's looking for this girl. Why wouldn't it tell her the name? And Rob and you and Nick bring up great points about Grogu being told to Ahsoka throughout zero verbal communication. And these aren't the droids you're looking for. Like, Force users are very powerful. But the leading theory, and it's insane, is in that final fight at the end of episode 3, when Devin is about to leave and Maul grabs that lightsaber from her, the lightsaber itself, and in the closed captioning it says, Maul's lightsaber whispers in Maul's lightsaber whispers in alien language. And you hear it. It's like what you usually hear with Maul. Like in the Phantom Menace, you heard it all the way back then, and you hear it in this show too. But in the closed captioning, it says Maul's lightsaber speaks in alien language. So the leading theory is that Maul's lightsaber told him. Maul's lightsaber, the kyber crystal inside of his lightsaber, spoke to him and told him her name, which is wild.
That's a confirmation. I think that's definitely a confirmation. So I think that's pretty cool. I didn't know that the closed caption said that, and I always keep the closed caption on because you always miss something or you pick up something if the closed caption's on. If somebody's talking in the background and you're not sure exactly what they're saying. So yeah, I would make that as that's pretty cool. I did not know that about the closed caption, and I've missed that, and I've seen it 3 times already this week. So.
Well, I think that qualifies as, the Force telling him, like it qualifies as him seeking something and having it answered. And that's a really cool way to do it.
Yes.
Because I think we haven't really gotten a ton other than maybe a little bit in the Clone Wars, maybe some in Jedi Survivor of like communication with a kyber crystal. Like that would be a cool thing to get into.
Yeah, you only really get it a little bit in Clone Wars when the kids are going, the younglings are going to get their kyber crystals because they call out to them or whatever. But earlier on in episode 3, you have the lightsaber sitting there, which is Asajj Ventress' lightsaber, which we'll get to in a second. It's sitting there and at the tea party, and Devin is sort of staring at it, and then it cuts to the lightsaber, and the lightsaber is making noise again. Like this kyber crystal inside of this lightsaber is calling to her, and you can hear it. Like that's something you can hear. It's such attention to detail. It's so cool. It's awesome.
May I push back on the Ventress's lightsaber?
Do it.
All right. I only know. What's that?
Let's get into it. So some people here that might not know exactly what's going on. Yes. Did you want to girlfriend's closing the door?
Yeah.
Some people might not know exactly what this is leading up to with the lightsaber. Do you want to give it a little example, Mike?
Okay, yeah. So the lightsaber that Maul's lightsaber splits in half, of course. It like detaches into 2. One half is his OG lightsaber from Phantom Menace. It got cut in half by Obi-Wan Kenobi in the Phantom Menace. And the other half of it he has kept, and that is still half of his lightsaber. The other half is like not similar, not maybe okay. That kind of looks the same. It is the exact same lightsaber hilt as Asajj Ventress' lightsaber from the Dark Disciple novel. Now, just from that novel, because before that novel, she has the red lightsabers, which have a bent hilt like Count Dooku. And then after, in Tales of the Underworld, she has another bent hilt that's yellow now. And it's an even newer lightsaber hilt. But in between, she has this lightsaber hilt that Maul just happens to have. So that's kind of where we're at here.
Yeah, I was basically gonna say that. That
I thought you were going to counter that.
Well, a little bit, because like even Ventress's in Bad Batch and Tales of the Underworld is basically like a slightly curved version of Maul's. Like it's the same patterns. It looks like it's made the same way. Same vents, same like silver and black.
Yeah.
But Maul's Shadow Collective lightsaber, as it is sold at Galaxy's Edge, is literally what she's holding in the drawing on Dark Disciple. So whether they just like had drawn that up and switched it, it's a rife opportunity for, blending it in. I feel like we talked about that a couple of years ago with that lightsaber, but it is also weird that her new lightsaber is also reminiscent of Maul's Shadow Collective one.
Yes.
But anyway, at some point, if it was hers, he would have bled it, which would be cool. But that would have happened prior to season 7 because he has it in Clone Wars season 7. So,
well, the events of Dark Disciple, I assume. Well, no, they definitely are before the events of Clone Wars season 7 because they're before Order 66. Count Dooku's still alive. His head is not removed from his body, so he's definitely still there. But like you said, he could have just maybe not happened upon her lightsaber, but found like maybe it was on Dathomir, buried with her. I guess even though she wasn't buried, she was put into water. But I guess the only logical explanation would be that they left the lightsaber with her when they dropped her dead body off on Dathomir, and then Maul found it there. Because I was talking about this with my chat yesterday, I was sort of confused. Oh my god, I don't know everything about Star Wars. Oh, and end the live stream. No.
All right, Mike's out. No more Mike.
We're done.
I quit. No. So I didn't know what the Darksaber was, and we came to the conclusion that it is on Dathomir. It is still where we see it in Rebels years and years later, where Maul stashed it, I guess, on Dathomir. So that's where it still would be today. So does Maul is Maul just like Grievous, just with like a lightsaber collection
of them
back home, or
well, he's got a lot of weird stuff in there too, like this paint drawing. But no, like I think all three of us had thrown Ventress into our predictions for a cameo in Maul Shadow Lord. I don't know if we need like deep lightsaber lore on them when she shows up, but she would be a perfect character to help steer Devin, to help get Devin out of this. Especially given what she's up to in the Bad Batch and in Tales of the Underworld. So
it would be great if she showed up. I know episode 9 is titled Strange Allies. If she showed up and was one of those strange allies, and then like Devin was given the choice, like go with Maul or go with Asajj, and because she doesn't know who Asajj Ventress is, or maybe she does know the stories and she knows her as a villain too, then she's like, I'll go with Maul instead or something. That would be cool.
And I do think, like, at least for now, until we're amazed by, a turning point in the show, I think if Devin is ever with Maul, it's either out of confrontation or of like being a willing prisoner, because if it comes down to Iko, her master is dead, and there's a Star Destroyer above you, and your only way out is with Maul, you'll be a willing prisoner and figure it out.
Yeah.
Right. And I think she kind of she's tempted, Ron. I think you're right. I think she's tempted to do something, but not as much as I thought she was going to be. Like, I thought it would kind of be like the classic, she's tempted, like we've seen all the time, to like turn a little bit. I think she's more against him 4 episodes in than I thought she would be. But I think he's okay with that. I think he's just wanting her to kind of let loose a little bit. Ultimately, I think she's actually on to him. I think she knows that at the end of the day, he would just end up using her. Like, hurt people. He's going to use her the way he was used. And I think she's on to him for that. and that's where the bad guy portion of it comes in, but he's not wrong.
I think like you just said, I think Maul has Devin right where he wants her at this point. Like at the end of episode 4, when they confront him, he's like, I knew you'd come back, and you brought your master, just like I knew you would too. So he's just playing her at this point, which is great. I wonder what Maul thinks her next move is going to be. But as you guys have both pointed out in this live stream already, we are talking about Maul as if he's like the right choice. Like we're like, yeah, Devin, go join. He's the good guy, not Master Daki. Yeah, not Master Daki. And you almost, with this show, I know they're not making Maul like feel like a good guy. He's still killing at least 20 people per episode right now. He's killing a lot of people. But you're almost like looking past that because you know the Empire, you know Palpatine, and you know how evil they are. So you're like, yes, this guy is bad, but it's not until like Devin says you're a murderer, and then you're like, oh yeah, he's a murderer. Okay, wait. But you're kind of on Maul's side the entire time too.
Yeah. Well, we haven't seen that scene with the two of them where Iko Dio says that we're not going to join him. Correct? Yeah. We haven't seen that yet. So we should see that this week. And I'm guessing once the Inquisitors come in, and maybe Iko has a little bit of a change of heart when he sees these Inquisitors come in as well. That's that's what I want to see, is what Iko Dio is going to do when these Inquisitors show up. And is he going to maybe change his mind a little bit and say, hey, you know what? This guy's bad, but these MFers are worse. So we're going to have to, maybe help and join. And that's why I think that, and that's what I said from the beginning, the Inquisitors are going to take him out. And then she's going to be like, okay, well, now I'm going to have to side with somebody. So it might as well be Maul, which I think is cool. And then to go back a few in reference to Asajj's lightsaber, they don't put stuff in here because they know we're going to pick it apart. They don't put her lightsaber in there and then be like, oh shoot, we made a mistake. It should have looked like this. So we're definitely going to get an explanation for that.
Although they have been sitting on it for 6 years, or when was season 7 of Clone Wars, 6 years ago?
Yep.
They've been quiet. I don't know. I don't know if it even blew up back then, but
no, it didn't really. But to your point, like half of his lightsaber is an Inquisitor's lightsaber in Solo, and yes, that's like, okay, maybe he killed an Inquisitor, but we might actually get to see that happen in this show. So like that's another thing.
In Rebels, he's got the Inquisitor lightsaber. So
where I think that's where he'll get it this season.
Yeah,
he's going to get it from one of those two. I think
Marok would be awesome. Now that you said that, because like they want to leave, obviously Master Daki wants to leave before all this craziness happens, before the Empire shows up, but Devin's like, no, I know where Maul is, we can stop him. And then it all goes to chaos. But now the Empire is there. They really can't leave because they'll be tracked or shot out of the sky or whatever the Empire's system is. However, what people aren't really, I guess, talking about is Master Daki is extremely injured at the end of that last episode. Like Maul kicks him and he is limping around. He has to be carried out pretty much by Devin. And then he's like sitting in the alley, like, I'm done. Like, I honestly thought he was going to die for a second. He's in rough shape. So yeah, of course. But he is very injured. So him going up against Inquisitors like the next day is not going to be a great look for him. And I think it's going to be Devin who is like going out to get supplies for him or something, who gets caught by the Empire, and then it becomes just chaos and the Inquisitors start hunting them down and all that. But Daki is not going to be ready to fight. And maybe Maul's not going to be either because his leg is hurt too. And he's got robot legs.
Yeah.
So
she kicks him pretty good. And he even, you see that in, I forget which episode it is, but you can see that it was still bothering him after the fight because he goes down. And I think even Rook Cast says something to him about it or notices it. So it'll be interesting.
He's just a sucker for that leg kick too. Obi-Wan does it to him and Savage like 10 times in one episode and breaks them. But yeah, I don't know. I think her master is kind of out of commission in general. Like I think he would rather hide, which they could probably pull off successfully in some way, but she's not going to want to do that. So I think it's going to frustrate her. She's going to get herself into trouble. And Maul's going to capitalize on it. I think that makes him, if you'd have asked me going into the 4th episode, like, would the Inquisitors be able to kill him? And I would think, I don't know. Seems like a powerful guy. But now that he's, I don't know what's going on with him. His ribs are shattered or something.
Yeah.
Puts them both in danger. And who's there to help out? Maul.
Yeah, that's the thing, because we were like, if Maul is the one who kills Master Daki, then Devon's not going to want to join him. Mm-hmm. But if the Inquisitors do it, then it might actually help.
The linchpin. Yeah.
Yeah. But now, in reality, if Master Daki dies because he's injured, then it was kind of Maul's fault. Like, Maul did start the train that ended up killing him.
Yeah. I think he can talk his way out of it with her, honestly. Yeah. Like, so, cost of doing business, we don't live a nice life anymore, but we can make it nicer,
Yeah. I will just say, this popped up on my other screen here. StarWars.com just posted an article about the first 7 days of streaming and how many views it got and stuff. And it's just a couple paragraphs if you guys want me to read it.
Yeah.
Okay, so it says Star Wars Maul Shadow Lord, and I'll just read this, has already broken records, claiming a rare perfect 100% on Rotten Tomatoes after its premiere, and continues to gain praise weekly from press and fans alike. Critics highlight the elevated animation style and dark, gritty, noir-inspired storyline that brings out the franchise's most compelling villains into the spotlight. The first episode just says the first episode, not 2, which is interesting. The first episode hit 4.1 million views globally in its first 7 days on Disney Plus. Currently, it is at number 1 trending on Disney Plus in the United States, and has ranked as one of the top titles in the Disney Plus top 10 every single day since its premiere. And then Dave Filoni says, I'm very proud of our team as they continue to challenge themselves and raise the bar of our animated shows. They've done a fantastic job delivering something new and exciting with this series, and we are all very happy that the fans are enjoying it. And then it just says Maul is every week on Mondays. So 4.1 million views. Now, I don't really know. Obviously, if you compare that to like live action stuff, it's probably not that good, but I don't know how we would compare that to anything. Let's see. Okay, what do you guys think of that?
I think that's good. I think that, again, you have that name behind it. You have Maul behind it. You have people now that they're looking at it. And again, this is the thing that sucked about the Acolyte and getting that poor review. You have people looking at Rotten Tomatoes or reading things like that going, it's got 100%. And the people think it's a 96%. Well, let me go check it out. And they're like, oh, this is pretty cool. And that's the thing, I think, where the Acolyte got robbed. If you would have given the Acolyte a much better, score, more people would have figured it out and been like, this is a freaking awesome show. And yeah, okay, I get it. There's some quirks in it. There's a couple little things that if you wanted to be really picky, you could go into that. But for the most part, and I think you guys would also agree, that's an awesome show, and it could have been even more awesome season 2, I think, because you could have, just built on that whole Plagueis thing, which everybody wants, and everybody wants to, even possibly see a young Sheev Palpatine. So I think that's fantastic to bring these people in. You got people coming in to watch this also that are probably new, going, oh, okay, well, and then they got the new movie coming out, so I'll go watch the new movie. That's really good. So I think everything that is sort of coming together with this, and I think, like you said at the beginning, Mike, just having that Maul name is helping bring people into this.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm kind of looking up here some other live action show numbers, and interesting. So Maul, keep in mind, first 7 days, first episode, 4.1 million views. Kenobi, first 7 days, 10 million views. Now
Yeah,
that's live action versus animation here.
I think that honestly tracks. Like, I'm not surprised because we, all three of us plus Derek. Sorry, Derek couldn't be here. Don't mean to speak for him, but we all said like we're gonna love it no matter what because it's Maul and it's new animation, which they're always kind of pushing the envelope on. But the audience that live action shows capture, it's just not going to do that. And
No,
it's
definitely not.
to have it be less than half of Kenobi kind of tracks in my mind. I think 4.1 million is a lot for animated. And that's why I kind of have like separate rankings for how I feel about it. Like an 8.9 Maul is not an 8.9 Kenobi or Andor for me, but
Yeah.
it's a different thing. And I think like it's still leading Disney Plus. Like that's a big deal in the entire platform, right? So even though relative to like a huge top build, live action Star Wars show, I think it's overperforming, honestly, for it to be leading the platform. Was Bad Batch ever leading the platform? Maybe like for a day because it came out,
maybe.
But like I think that's a big deal, even though it's not 10 million for Kenobi. I wonder what like Andor season 2's episode 1 was, with all the hype.
And that's the thing, because like we talked about earlier, and except for the three of us and pretty much everybody in this chat, I mean, there's people that aren't going to watch animation because it's animation. But 4 million, I think, is freaking awesome for an animated show.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to talk down about it, but I think that's what's really cool about it.
Yeah.
I think 4.1 million is a lot for an animated show. That's what I'm saying. That's why my comparison to Kenobi was like, holy crap, it even being close to half of Kenobi is wild. And I did just find a almost exact replica article written for Ahsoka in its first 7 days. And Ahsoka had 14 million, which by the way is more than Kenobi, but which is crazy. But 14 million again for Ahsoka. Ahsoka is this massive legacy character, live action show, was in The Mandalorian, was in Clone Wars, all that stuff. Bringing back Thrawn, all that great, whatever. And Maul is still almost a third of that in an animated series, which has a way smaller fan base. Now I'm going to try and find see if I can find a Bad Batch version.
Also try season 7 Clone Wars. I think that'd be the big test. Because I would say season 7 Clone Wars was probably the most anticipated animated thing. Compared to Maul.
Yeah,
probably more so
for Star Wars fans. When we knew season 7 was coming out after,
man, there's Mike's whole generation and under, whether they like Star Wars or not, was trying to watch season 7 Clone Wars. Like I think it might have done crazy numbers. But Disney Plus was relatively new too, so at that time, not everyone had it.
Well, and the cool thing, I think, just saying now when you're talking about Ahsoka, when that came out, it got 14 million. But guess where Ahsoka came from? Ahsoka came from animation.
Yeah,
which is freaking awesome. And we'll continue to build on that. Go ahead.
I'm not finding anything on any other animation now. They're really weird when it comes to numbers for anything, honestly, and it's only if like Lucasfilm themselves announces it, and I'm only finding Lucasfilm talk about Ahsoka and right now Maul, but I found Mando season 3 premiere in its first 2 days, so that's it's 7 days versus 2 days, and Mando season 3's premiere has almost 6 million views in its first 2 days. So they aren't really consistent with these numbers. I'm not finding anything for any other animated project, but it seems like 4.1 million is a good number. We'll just put it.
Moral of the story, I think it's overperforming and it's kind of tracking how we predicted. For it to be like a third of the audience for Ahsoka watching it does surprise me. I would think the Ahsoka audience, like as much as we love it, would be smaller than like an Obi-Wan audience.
Yeah.
Or a Kenobi audience. Just because like, I don't know, mom and dad, I don't know if you're still in the chat, but I don't know if they knew who Ahsoka was prior to the show. You know what I mean? And they watched it because I asked them to, because they enjoyed it. But like, I would have thought that Ahsoka would be below some of these other live actions in initial viewership first day. But that's what good marketing does. It looked cool on the lead up. Anyway, for Maul to be a third of that does surprise me, because I think all the same people from Ahsoka would transfer over to Maul.
Well, yes and no. Ahsoka's still a live action series. There's still a lot of people that only watch the live action stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Ron, I'm actually going to send you something.
Okay.
It's a poster from today for Maul. It's actually really cool.
Caden had some things here. Maybe you guys can do that while I'm pulling this stuff out. But he's trying to mic everybody. He's trying to
saw that.
I don't think Rook Cast will die. I think Rook Cast will be in season 2 and possibly continue to go on into whatever. He might lose a couple Mandalorians that we don't know their names or anything. I don't know about the two species that Zabrak, right? That one of them might, we might see one of them die at the end of this season or something like that, because you have to kill out some sort of, not main character, but a supporting cast member will probably have to die in Maul's crew, because you just they can't all live. Somebody's going to get hit by a stray bullet or something. I mean, that's just part of it, I think. But I don't think the whole crew is going to go and get mic'd.
Yeah, me either.
Yeah. I think given Maul's track record, I could see him all going. Not Rook Cast, though. I could see him leaving this season, even if he's successful, having lost a lot. I like the Freddie Prinze Jr. Description of what Maul is, and he's Sisyphus rolling the boulder up the hill, and it always comes down. Down. He'll work his tail off and almost get to the top, and always comes down. So I could see it happening. We've talked about like connections in Maul that they'll use to sort of inform the Mando and Grogu movie. I think we all agree that some of the main connections that would be really helpful or maybe expected are some of the crime, underworld sort of stuff, because it seems that Mando and Grogu is going to have pretty significant element of that. But I think Rook Cast could also be kind of a bridge, or maybe we get some tie-ins with the actual seasons of Mandalorians and what they're up to, because we know what happens to them. We got a lot of exposition, but I think it would be helpful in the scheme of like informing new projects for them to sort of like get Mandalorian stuff back into the mind a little bit as we go into the movie, the same way they're going to probably be putting the Hutts back in the mind, or these crime syndicates back in the mind, Black Sun, Pikes, that sort of thing, because I think that'll be obviously somewhat present in the movie. So all that to say, I think Rook Cast would be the vehicle for that if they're going to do it. But she can just be
and you're not going to bring Vanessa Marshall in just to do 3, 4, 5, maybe 10 episodes and then kill her off. I mean, she's a pretty big voice actress, so I think that they're obviously bringing her along with it. So that'll be interesting. But what you got here, Mike?
Well, first of all, that poster is awesome.
Yeah. Let's put it back up. Here we go.
Yeah. It is so cool. I mean, it's just for the first 4 episodes or whatever, but you take the first 4 episodes, they're all about 25, 30 minutes. It's pretty much a movie. First movie of the Maul franchise. But it's awesome. You got all the good guys on the left with the blue, and then the bad guys at the right. It's pretty great. I did just see somebody post online, which is a wild take. there's a new Star Wars show out right now called with Darth Maul as the lead protagonist. And then they said ... I don't see anyone talking about it. This brand is so unbelievably dead. I can't wait to find out that it's doing worse numbers than Starfleet Academy. First of all, I don't even know what Starfleet Academy is. I'm trying to look it up here. Is it Star Trek?
Yeah, it's the newest one. Yeah, I've heard that that's not great, and I don't mind it. I watch most of the Star Trek stuff as well.
There you go.
But yeah, I have not watched this.
That's a crazy take right there.
Huh?
So that was posted yesterday. That tweet.
It's rage bait.
I don't see anyone talking about this. This brand is unbelievably dead.
Yeah,
I think your algorithm is unbelievably dead.
Yeah,
because I don't know what you're. All I'm seeing 24 hours of the day is Maul talk.
And
and that is our and that is our algorithm, obviously. And we're looking at we're looking at more content creators and stuff. So whoever the people that do stuff like that. I don't think they do the research on it, because if you were to pull it up and just be what's the rating of Maul, this new Maul Star Wars, show, you're going to see Rotten Tomatoes at 100%, the people at 96%. This show is killing it. The animation is fantastic. The story is great. You're going to, if you just pull that, if you just Google that, you're going to pull it up and see that this is doing phenomenal.
Well, I mean, I think what we're doing tonight and every Wednesday, and Mike 3 times a week on his own, is something people don't really do anymore. Like, go actually find out what's going on rather than what you want to think is going on. And clearly there's a contingent of fans out there who want this to flop for whatever fucked up reason. Sorry, excuse me, for whatever messed up reason.
Whoa.
It's all right.
Because it's their thing. And that's okay, but it's like objectively not true. It's like it's being reviewed very well. The numbers are great, especially for an animation show. And also, I'm just going to throw it out there. There's a bit of literacy we kind of all need to regain as a society in watching stuff, that like we have only seen 40% of this story. So if you're not into it, you've only seen 40% of it. Of course, we don't know what the story is. Just because he's the main focus of the show does not, and by any means, make him a protagonist. It makes him maybe the subject of the show. We don't even really know if Dev is a protagonist or not. We're still getting into it. So that's, I don't know. It reminds me of The Acolyte a little bit, since we already mentioned it.
Yes.
But like, first episode, if you didn't like it, I don't know, you've seen 1/8 of the story. We don't know if it's bad yet, that sort of thing. So.
Yeah. Well, it's the funny part is he says this is a show where Darth Maul is the main protagonist. This franchise is dead. Have fans not been begging for a Vader show? Doesn't he have 6 movies and like eight seasons of television?
Yeah.
So in Maul is a fan favorite character. I don't know. My thing is, I just feel like, and maybe there's more than us than we think. And they're just people who don't want to spend their days online in comment sections. But I think that just for some reason, it's cool to hate on things nowadays. And for some reason, nothing can be good anymore. You look online for any announcement of a trailer, not just Star Wars at all, like anything. It's always just, oh, this is going to suck. Trailer for a new thing. It looks great. This is gonna, you look in the comments, this is terrible, why are they even doing this, blah blah. Like, it's all just negative all the time. And maybe that's just how we are now as a civilization. I don't know. But I seem to think that, like, I still think that's just the minority of people yelling louder than the majority.
Yeah, right. And I think it's like a social identifier of like, the people I want to think I'm cool would want me to hate this, or the people, pointing where they want to go, when like I think they'd probably enjoy it. I think everybody wants more Maul. Everybody wanted more Maul. We accepted Maul coming back in the Clone Wars, thought it was genius, and now we have it. And
the problem with that too is, like, if you have the take without even seeing an episode, or you watch the first episode and you're like, this is trash. If Maul goes on to become the greatest show of all time, you're going to be the guy who goes, I hated that.
Yeah.
And everybody's going to look at you like you're an idiot.
Look at Andor.
Yes, I was just about to say that.
Yeah.
When people checked out of Andor episode 1 because it was boring or it wasn't really going anywhere, and it's Cassian Andor, a side character, or not a side, I guess the main character, a character from a spin-off of Star Wars, you're like, okay, this show sucks. Like, what are we doing here? And then it ends up being one of the best pieces of Star Wars media ever, and now you look like an idiot. So it's just attention spans, the negativity just grow. Like people say online, like negativity gets engagement gets you money. So your favorite content creators, not just Star Wars, it's all across the board, are making negative content because it makes them more views, gets them more clicks, all that stuff, and it just multiplies and multiplies and multiplies. So,
and you know,
here we are.
The only thing they found out more than sugar or any other commodity that sells, they found out that rage sells better than anything. So what better thing to do than watch a show about the embodiment, rage. The embodiment of rage in the Star Wars prequels. I mean, spend a little time with it. Maybe you'll like it.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's just become cool lately.
Yeah.
Or maybe not lately, but maybe 5 years ago, to just hate Star Wars. When the sequels were coming out and people were sort of turning on the sequel trilogy because they were killing off their favorite characters left and right. And for some reason, people can't handle that anymore. It happens. Get over it. Your favorite character's going to die.
Exactly.
People were just turning completely on Star Wars, and they wanted to just call it dead. And they were like, this is nothing like Marvel. Marvel is so good. Fast forward to today, Marvel is terrible. Marvel sucks. Blah, 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 It's the lifespan of a franchise.
Yeah. And I think as we continue and as we all know, Star Wars isn't going anywhere. Star Wars is not dead, and it's continuing, and they're doing a fantastic job. And that's the thing. And I'm going to get to a couple of these chats in here, but welcome, Fearless. Thanks for joining us. Papa Boz, I don't think we'll see Ahsoka in this show. That's my opinion on that. Everybody in here saying, rage bait and all those type of things. I think that's what we're getting when we have some of these things like that. And it stinks that they're not giving it a chance. They want to make a quick buck. They want to tell their friends, oh, look at what I did in this chat, but again, and I know, Mike, you don't do it either, but I've had a few the past couple weeks, and I just ignore it, and let it go, because it's that 1%, because I get all the other cool questions or all the other cool comments and everybody's loving it, or, this episode or that episode, which is cool. So, and it's not, this is a fantastic show. And whoever wrote that article didn't even get on Google and Google it to see what it was like, because there's a lot of people talking about this show, and not just Star Wars people, because the critics are looking at this and the critics are giving it good reviews as well. So that's the cool thing about this.
On a more positive note, Fearless had a good point. The Bad Batch was at the time the best animated show, especially visually, right? Maybe we're talking in terms of animation, right? I've noticed in terms of animation that Maul has exceeded the Bad Batch, in my opinion, for how it looks, because they got like full on facial gestures and like, I don't know, like go back and watch, or when you're watching the next episodes, there's a very like human movement in their faces that has never been there in animation, in my opinion, before. I don't know. Have you noticed that? Like,
no, absolutely. I mean, they've reworked the animation style, and I guess the way they make the animation for this series specifically. And absolutely, the facial expressions and all that are so much more detailed. Obviously, it's a stylistic design to do all the painting strokes, or the like the matte paintings behind. So I think some ways I like the Bad Batch more, just like, I guess, for just like that, like a planet, looking at a planet in the Bad Batch, it looks almost like live action and it looks great. But I completely agree with you. Characters' faces, characters' emotions are so much better in this show.
Yep. We're already an hour and almost 10 minutes into this. So we can come back to this because I know we Mike will be on tomorrow and then on Saturday and he'll do his predictions, but we won't be on until after that. So I do want to come back and do predictions before we get off, but I do want to go into Ahsoka a little bit. Just because we haven't seen anything for Ahsoka yet. And I think Ahsoka season 2 is probably going to be the most important Star Wars TV season for the lore of the fans since Rebel ended. And because, if we look at it, we built, three things. You have the advancement of Thrawn, who comes into this. We're going to cash in on probably the Mortis gods in live action. And then we're going to see what's going on between Baylan, Shin, and Ahsoka. So I think that's going to be an interesting part of what's going on. And we haven't seen anything yet to, whet our appetite. We haven't seen a trailer. We haven't seen a new poster. We haven't seen anything like that. So that I'm a little disappointed in that we haven't had anything like that yet. But, I think we're going to see. I think Baylan is going to be a little bit more involved in this story than we think because of the Mortis gods, and I think that's going to be a cool thing for us to dive into because we're going to get the Mortis gods, and I think the whole storyline is where the mythology is going to, we're going to get a bomb dropped on us, and I think that's going to be the cool part about this, and that's why I'm looking forward to once we get some more of this Ahsoka stuff to come out. And I'm just, like I said, I'm a little disappointed that we haven't had more Ahsoka stuff. And I know they're promoting Maul, they're going to promote Mandalorian and Grogu, but give us a little bit of Ahsoka. Like you said, what did you say? 14 million people the first week. I mean, that's a lot of freaking people, and a lot of people don't even know that there's a season 2 yet coming out. So we need to, promote that as well. So what's your guys' thoughts on that?
I agree to an extent. I think you just hit the nail on the head, though, that they're promoting Maul and Mando right now, and people are still complaining that Mando's not getting the marketing that it should, which I think this week is CinemaCon. Actually, tomorrow is the Disney panel for CinemaCon, so there's going to be a big old update and maybe even another trailer for Mando tomorrow. With Jon Favreau giving an update and maybe even the tickets going on sale. So the marketing for Mando is going to kick into high gear into May. And then obviously as soon as Maul ends, we're going to get even more. But Ahsoka, I think, is just so far away still. Like, you're talking September, maybe, if not October. We don't have a release date yet. However, like, if you look back to season 1 of Ahsoka, I believe the first teaser trailer or the first official trailer was there a Star Wars Celebration? Yeah, Star Wars Celebration that year, so in April. So it would be around now. I think if you're going to get a teaser trailer for Ahsoka season 2 anytime soon, it would be May the 4th, just to give us something on May the 4th. But I've got a feeling they're going to wait until Mando's over, just to not, clog the market.
Yeah. And again, because we're so excited about it, and it's because it is such a great time to be a Star Wars fan, they do have to pull back on a few things right now because we are going to get so much this year. And if you do, flood it, like you said, if you flood that, we're going to miss out on something else. And people are like, oh, okay, well, now I'm excited about, the whole, Ahsoka thing, where it's like, oh, wait a minute, we got this Mandalorian and Grogu movie coming out as well. So that was just my thing. I think it's interesting that we just haven't seen too much because you can throw it in there, and it is going to be a popular series. Again, it's season 2 is going to be phenomenal, and I think it could possibly tie into and have a little bit more of a hold for Filoni's movie. I know. I think that we could have a little bit more in there in Ahsoka than we almost do with the whole Mandoverse with Mandalorian and Grogu. I think we're going to get more from Dave with the Ahsoka series into his trilogy than we will with Mandalorian and Grogu.
Yeah, I agree. I think if anything, Mando and Grogu will inform maybe some details of Ahsoka because we're in the exact same timeline. There's some really big things happening in regard to all these characters, but I think Ahsoka will have much more of a how you put it, much more of an influence on whatever comes next for the Mandoverse or for the Heir to the Empire universe or whatever that is going to look like. But Ahsoka also might, it doesn't have to, but it might have the responsibility of informing Starfighter. We've said maybe there are some, in all the things we get this year, maybe there are some themes or perhaps like adversaries that we're introduced to that we end up meeting in Starfighter to kind of make it all make sense. So we know what the threat is. Depending on what Starfighter is, if it's just kicking off a whole new timeline, then that's a different story. But I think Ahsoka, I think you're right. Ahsoka will have more of an influence on what comes next for that time period than Mando and Grogu will. I think Mando and Grogu, to some extent, will be more of its own thing, will be more like an alternative to season 4 Mandalorian than Ahsoka. I think Ahsoka, because it's like a full-on Dave Filoni thing and because of the subject matter, it's allowed to just go wherever it wants. It's allowed to like get weird. It's not, if you'd have asked like 4 years ago if Abeloth would be thrown into a show, you'd say probably not right now, but it seems like it could happen. But Ron, to your point earlier, two things. One, I don't mean this in the way that it sounds, everybody, but I do think Mando and Grogu needs all the help it can get marketing wise, simply because they haven't really made the huge push yet. Like they still haven't. They've been pushing harder. So to like distill that with Ahsoka, I feel like kind of is a hiccup possibility. And I think Mando needs like this big month push to go into it because Star Wars is back in theaters again. Secondly, Ron, I'm a big time believer that Baylan Skoll is going to be a big deal. I don't think you do like a awesome recast like that for no reason. Also, he was a big part of the last season. He was one of the most interesting parts of the Ahsoka season 1. And I feel like because we're all excited that maybe Abeloth's there or Anakin's going to become the father, even though he's dead, all these things that we want to happen, we kind of forget about Baylan and Shin. I have no reservation that like Baylan and Shin could be still like the adversaries in this show, and it's just more complicated. And then over here we have Thrawn, and maybe we get some mentions of Abeloth or what the real threat is, but Baylan is still kind of the adversary here. He's not gone, and we need to hear from him, not from what we think, but from him what he's going to find. And I don't think he really knows, but he knows. And I don't know if Ahsoka remembers that she was on Mortis or not. It didn't seem like she did in the Clone Wars, but she's going to remember, or I don't know. But I think
will definitely come to fruition.
I think it's much more likely and as powerful if Baylan, Shin, whatever's going on there, kind of have the antagonist role still for season 2 in the absence of like an Abeloth or something like that. But
yeah, well, I want to piggyback off what you were saying, Nick, about how it is very well possible that they can't advertise for Ahsoka season 2 because the events of Mando affect the show.
Yeah, sure.
And if I guess you could go around it by giving you like a couple scenes that don't even like have anything to do with Mando, but if Thrawn's even mentioned in the Mandalorian and Grogu and what he's doing, like they could be talking about. We're getting a lot of New Republic. We're getting Colonel Ward, Sigourney Weaver's character, and all that. So at any point, they could be mentioning, "Oh, we just got word from Coruscant that there's a big threat on Dathomir," or something like that, like something crazy where it's a mention of Thrawn, and that could affect the entire plot of Ahsoka season 2. We already know for a fact that Zeb Orrelios is going over to Ahsoka season 2, so they might not even be able to start marketing Ahsoka season 2 until Mando's already out, because it might really affect the other project.
Right. And to be fair too, like first live action Ahsoka we get is Mando season 2, right? and we get Morgan Elsbeth. We kind of get the cliffhanger of where's Thrawn, and Morgan Elsbeth has something to do with it. But you can start Ahsoka season 1 having not seen that and be totally fine. You can watch Ahsoka season 1 without any of the Mando season 2 episode 5 or whatever that was, and be fine. I don't know that you can start Mando season 3 without having watched Book of Boba Fett and like wonder, like, I don't know if you could go as like a casual fan from season 2 Mandalorian to season 3 and be like, wait a second, because it's half sibling is over here. So I wonder if that's at play here. Like,
yes, exactly.
All the same pieces are on the board. So
I think that Dave that loves Star Wars was in the chat earlier. He actually messaged me because he was doing that. He was watching through Mando for the first time, and he watched Mando's two finale and watched Grogu emotionally leave Din Djarin, and then started season 3 and was like, wait, did I miss something? And he actually messaged me. He was like, Mike, what's going on here? I was like, you got to watch Book of Boba Fett first. And I mean, that seems like common knowledge to us, but it's not. Like season 2 to season 3, that should make sense, but it doesn't. So maybe you're right. Maybe something happens with Mandalorian and Grogu in Ahsoka season 2 that you need to watch one or the other in order.
Right. And I think it could also be unrelated and we get a mention and it doesn't bother anything. But, like you said, you say Zeb is going to be in Ahsoka.
Yep. We know
so we know Zeb's going to be in Ahsoka, but does the general audience, know that he's going to be in it? And does that kind of rob the tension if they fall in love with him, if he's in danger? Like, does that rob them of the tension? Like, it's little things that, but I think more than anything, they have yet to do their big marketing push.
Yeah.
And,
well, like Mike said, that whole thing that's coming out, the Cinecon thing or whatever, and Jon Favreau, being able to push that up, I think we'll start to get that push for that. And I think that's why the numbers recently have been so low. People are talking about the opening weekend. It's like, it's only going to do 70 million the opening weekend. I think it'll do a little bit more than that. But so I ended the one poll with Maul. So 33% people loved it and 67% of people liked it, which was cool. But here's I got another one that I want to put up here. And what are you guys most excited for next? So is it the Mandalorian and Grogu movie or Ahsoka season 2? And I didn't put both because I want to know which ones you guys are more excited about. Is it one or the other? Because I think we're all excited for both of them. Yes, I totally agree that. But what are we, really excited about, or what are you guys most excited about in the next, the next 6 months after Maul comes out?
Yeah, and I just want to make it really clear because I think people didn't understand the first poll. You got to type 1 or 2 into the chat as your option for the poll. Yeah, you can't just like click on it because probably like 10 people trying to click on their screen right now. And they're like, "Why is this working?"
Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah, so 1 or 2 in the chat.
That just came out. So thank you for clearing that up, Mike. Yeah, it's a new feature. I just saw that today. So,
yeah. So I personally am not. Again, not to slight the Mandalorian and Grogu movie at all, but I'm far more excited for Ahsoka season 2. And maybe it's because Ahsoka season 2 season 1 was a giant cliffhanger and Mando season 3 wasn't. But maybe it's because Ahsoka and Anakin are my 2 favorite characters and they're both going to be in Ahsoka season 2. Maybe because I love Rebels so much and I love Ezra and Thrawn. I don't know what it is, but I feel like we know so much more, at least, about what could happen in Ahsoka season 2 than what we do with the Mandalorian and Grogu. And for those reasons, I'm out. No, for those reasons, it's Ahsoka season 2 all day long. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think, again, Mandalorian and Grogu is going to be a great movie. I think in IMAX, you're going to have to want to watch it in IMAX, which I think is just going to be fantastic. But yeah. The other day I was with some friends and the wife was like, which I sort of thought was sort of funny because she's like, "Did you know that they're doing a movie about the Mandalorian?" And I'm like, "Yeah, dude, I did know that." But she's like, and the Grogu's going to be in it and it's going to be so cool, So she's not a Star Wars fan. she could care less about Star Wars, but she's going to go see it with her kids because of Grogu. You know, and those are the things I think where when people talk about some of these animated things or Moana or whatever some of these Disney things are that are animated or come into live action, and some of these other ones that are making, you know, $1 billion or $2 billion, it's because a lot of them I think a lot of them are like the kid movies, and you're gonna go and you're gonna take 2 or 3 or 4 kids, or you know, you all your friends are going to go with their kids and stuff like that. So that's going to help this movie, and which is great. But for us fans, it's just being able to tie everything into this. And I agree with you, and that sort of helps with my transition into Ahsoka. But yeah, you can't put too much Ahsoka stuff out because we're probably going to get a few things in Mandalorian and Grogu that are going to push into Ahsoka, and we can't, you know, they don't want to give that away, so we're not going to do that. But I think now after this weekend, we're going to get a bunch of Mandalorian stuff. You know, hopefully the tickets will go on sale, and that'll be interesting too to see how many tickets go on or sale and how well they do, because they're going to have numbers for that. You know, tickets that have already been bought. And then as those grow, what they do is if the ticket sales are up, they'll push it out to more theaters, you know, which I don't know why, if you have a movie theater or, you know, whether it's AMC or Regal or, you know, Cinemark, whatever, that everybody's going to have that movie in there. And it's probably going to be playing in several theaters, you know, throughout that whole, you know, those big buildings, you know. So it'll be interesting to see what goes on after next week for Mandalorian and Grogu, and hopefully it will start to sort of quiet some of these haters out there that are, you know, don't think it's going to do very well, or, you know, this is going to bomb or things like that. So
somebody just mentioned that too. Lego today did announce that we are getting a N1 Starfighter Lego set on May the 4th, this massive N1 Starfighter. And funnily enough, I mean, we don't even see the N1 Starfighter in any of the marketing for this movie, even though Din does have that because he's getting his new Razor Crest, of course. But didn't they, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't they make a giant Razor Crests Lego set right before they blew up the Razor Crest in season 2? Are they doing the exact same thing with the N1 Starfighter right now?
Maybe. I'm surprised they don't have more toys and Legos for it than they already do, you know? Which May 4th would be obviously perfect time to drop it. And more importantly, you know, probably later in the summer once all these kids have seen it, you know, because, you know, other than us, kids also do buy these toys. So, you know, when they see the movie and they got to go get a Zeb, maybe that's when, you know, you get the stuff. In regard to the poll, though,
I think that's pretty funny. I'm sorry. That's pretty awesome.
What about Jack Black?
Yeah, Jack Black's gotta be in there too. Hey, Jack Black's coming off the Mario movie too. He's red hot.
Yeah.
I did see today, though, speaking of Mandalorian and Grogu, it did get its official rating of PG-13, which is not that big of a surprise, but you know, I think every Disney Star Wars has been PG-13 so far. But it's just funny because PG-13 wasn't around when Star Wars first was released, so the first 3 movies are all PG, and actually, so is the Phantom Menace. Yeah, and Attack of the Clones. Revenge of the Sith was PG-13, and it was held from me for so long. But granted, I was a child and probably shouldn't have watched Anakin Skywalker burn alive. So, you know, correct decision by my parents, but, you know.
Or cut Dooku's head off.
Yeah, that too.
You know.
It was PG-13, for sure.
Yeah.
But what's PG-13 in Mando and Grogu? What's happening that makes it not PG, I guess? I don't know.
Well, and my thing with them, you know, people talk about, you know, as much murder and death as we see in this animation series, but Mandalorian and Grogu, I mean, first episode, that guy gets cut in half with the door. The alien gets cut in half after he pulls him in. You know, first episode of, was it season 1 or season 2, where he cuts that guy in half with that's on the desk. You know, so I mean,
Boba Fett.
Or so so I mean, again, where do you draw the line? You know, obviously they're not dropping any F-bombs or anything like that, but I mean, you know, it's very similar. You know, we're watching Mandalorian and Grogu trailers, and when he busts in and shoots the flamethrower, and then he shoots the 2 troopers, and then he just leans back and goes boom, and just to make sure he's dead. So where are they drawing the line on that, which I think is interesting. I guess it's going to be either some sort of sexual content or swear words that make it an R-rated movie, because the murder scenes that we've already seen, we're probably going to get more of them in the Mandalorian and Grogu. So, and it's already rated PG-13. So that'll be, I'm glad that they rated it that, but I also think that rating could also hurt it a little bit before, mom and dad take everybody, babies or, kids to see Grogu, cute little green Grogu. And now we're getting, heads chopped off and things like that. Like you were saying, when you were a kid, you weren't allowed to watch that until later.
Yeah.
So,
but it didn't affect the show, because the show had a TV rating of, So, well, to that point, though, I guess, I don't think we're going to see Anakin Skywalker burn alive in this movie. Like, Revenge of the Sith is a very dark movie.
Very true. Very true. But I do think that we are going to see quite a bit of death in this as well, because he's still a bounty hunter. We're still dealing with a war. Like they said, there's going to be a war in our Star Wars. So same with Ahsoka. You're still going to see a bunch of violence and stuff in Ahsoka as well. So it'll be interesting to see if that does affect the box office, because it's PG-13. Because you can sit at home and you can turn the TV on, which is great, but you're going to get your 5-year-old into the car because he likes Baby Yoda or Grogu, and if it's a PG-13, you're not taking your 5-year-old to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know if they do this with the TV show, because Ahsoka season 2 is a TV show, but is it possible that like Mando could be like the Rogue One to Ahsoka season 2's A New Hope? In the way, like, Ron, as you were just saying, this is a war in our Star Wars. We know that Ahsoka is going to be a war in our Star Wars. We know that A New Hope is the Battle of Yavin and a war in our Star Wars. But Rogue One is what gets you there. Is Ahsoka is Mandalorian and Grogu going to be what gets us there? Like, obviously it's not them stealing the Death Star plans, but it could be something along the lines of like the events of Mando. Yes, it's going to be its own story, Din and Grogu with the Hutts, whatever, but it connects and leads into what happens in Ahsoka season 2. Let me put it this way. I don't think Mando is going to end without a cliffhanger or two. Like, it's not going to be a final ending to the movie like season 3 was sort of a final ending. It's going to be a gigantic cliffhanger to either Ahsoka season 2 or another Mando movie, which Dave Filoni is going to be creating.
Or both.
Or both, yeah. But do you guys think that this could really set up, for the first time we've ever seen this, set up a show, a movie setting up a show? And it will still be its own story, of course. It'll still be great and have act 1, 2, and 3. But could it set up Ahsoka season 2 in this war in our Star Wars?
I think it'll set it up a little bit, but I also think, like you said, with Dave's movie, I think we're going to see a little bit more of that. I think there'll be a little cliffhanger to bring us into Ahsoka, because hopefully we'll only have a month or two before Ahsoka comes out, and we'll be able to do it with with that cliffhanger. But then you'll have to wait for Dave's movie with a possible even bigger cliffhanger. And now we're going to have to wait another 2 years until, if not, maybe even 3, because there's no confirmation that anything is going on with Filoni's trilogy. Yeah. So that could be, 3 years from now. But I definitely think that it could set up some of the stuff in Ahsoka, because we're going to have to get a little bit more story, I feel like, and a bad guy in Mandalorian and Grogu. We don't have a set bad guy right now. Is it going to be Thrawn? Is it going to be this one guy that's part of the the Ghost Council or whatever? I don't think he's going to be our main protagonist in this. So it's going to have, and I don't think Embo is either, or the Hutts. We're going to have something that will set this up for Thrawn into Ahsoka, which will also, I think, Ahsoka will set up Dave's movie, and Mandalorian and Grogu will also help set up Dave's movie as well. And possibly some of these things, do you think some of these things could possibly set up Starfighter? Just a couple things that, even though it's so far away, will we get something? Will we get an Easter egg in Starfighter to go back to Mandalorian and Grogu or Ahsoka or anything like that?
It's possible. I mean, it's not impossible, I guess.
Yeah, I think it depends. Like, if I'm betting on it, I would think Mando and Grogu would be kind of subtle in the way that it helps set up Ahsoka, because I think for getting into the theater with this story, it's going to kind of mostly be its own thing. And I think if it really sets something up for Ahsoka, we're going to know it, but it's not going to be like this heavy-handed, there's all these other stories going on around us, and now it's a part of what the movie is. I think the movie is going to be its own thing, and the implications of what's happening and the mentions that are made are going to get us talking about it for a year, or a few months going into Ahsoka. My guess is that it would be kind of subtle, but not so subtle that they won't mention or maybe even show Thrawn. Like, for sure mention. I mean, they mentioned him in season 3. Why wouldn't they do it again? You got Praetorian Guards. I think there's one thing we haven't really talked about is I think it has actually a higher likelihood to boost some sequel stuff than it does Ahsoka stuff, because that's recognizable to the audience. And like the Praetorian Guards in season 3. And these, I think it might be more likely that it mentions things that run into The Force Awakens much later than it is to like inform Starfighter. Whereas Ahsoka, I think, especially because we're dealing with an entirely new galaxy, has more of a likelihood to not only boost the Filoni stuff, but whatever's going on in Starfighter, like open up the possibilities to what they could be running into after the sequels.
You're already getting some of that too with the Anzellans, like Babu Frick. That's a connection, direct connection to sequel trilogy characters. And if what we all hope to be true is that Snow Planet is Ilum, which is Starkiller Base, then that would be a direct connection to the sequels. We've already seen that they're trying to clone Project Necromancer, Snoke, all that stuff. So Mando's already...
Shadow Council features First Order, unmade yet, so I think, man, there are more connections than I was willing to admit that you just highlighted, but we're already there. Babu Freak is a huge one.
That's the thing too, is people have yet to have an issue with that. And I'm sure it's coming. I'm sure whenever they make a real like direct connection to a specific character like Ben Solo or a Kyle or a Rey or something, then they'll be upset if we like see Rey's dad or mom or whatever. But there's already been so many connections to the sequels, and they've just done them so well that people don't care, and it actually makes the sequels better. And it's just they're doing a great job so far. I do want to mention though, because Ron brought it up, we don't know the villain of this movie yet, or at least not the specific villain. When you look at Star Wars and how important the villains are, even in the spin-off movies like Dryden Voss and Kira and Krennic, and even Vader is of course in there, and Tarkin. But you look at all Star Wars movies, the first one, you got Tarkin and Vader as villains with the ever-looming Emperor Palpatine. And then in the prequels, you go back, you got Maul and Palpatine and Newt Gunray and Count Dooku and General Grievous. There's so many villains, and they're all layered on top of each other, and they're so iconic. All of them are iconic. When you look at the Mandalorian and Grogu, you're like, okay, more Hutts? Yeah, Jabba was cool, but are they going to be really the main villains? And the Shadow Council members, we don't even know their names. So something's got to budge here, where there's a specific villain that we got to root against, and they're badass, and we love them, but hate them at the same time because they're a Star Wars villain. There needs to be maybe a few of them, like the prequels had a few of them, like the originals had a few of them. There can be more than one villain, but you have to have like an attachment to them. You have to have something where you care about that. Yeah, Krennic was a new villain, I guess, in Rogue One, but you still had Vader. You still had Tarkin. Dryden Voss was a new villain, but you still had Maul. So if Thrawn is that overarching figure, even if he's not in the movie, if he's mentioned, we need some familiar faces, or maybe not familiar faces, but a villain, like a actual villain to get behind. Because Moff Gideon was new. Moff Gideon was great. So Moff Gideon was new, but he was great. Balin Skull was new, but he was great. Skeleton Crew, Jod, Nana was new, but he was great. You need somebody that's an actual villain. We can't just have the Hutts and the Shadow Council and this and that, and that. There has to be something.
Well, and that's the interesting thing is what's gonna if this new trailer that comes out or anything before that, are we gonna know before we get there? Or are we gonna or are we gonna get it, you know, in the first scene and be like, oh, okay, maybe this Embo scene lasts for the first 5 or 10 minutes or whatever, you know, and then we go into the hut scene. You know, where are we gonna get that? Or are they gonna show us a, you know, big blue meanie, you know, in the trailer? Are we going to get a quick glimpse of Thrawn and then be, you know, then everybody's mind's blown going, okay, how are they going to bring him into this movie if they're already showing him as the bad guy? So I think right now what they're living off of, and I think they will continue until we get there to the movie, is Embo, the Shadow Council, the Hutts. You know, we're going to get those three as the bad guys, so to speak, but at some point you're going to have your main villain, and I think it will probably end up being Thrawn, not Max Rebo, Thrawn, big blue meanie.
Well, what's funny about that too is like you said, they could just drop a trailer. They could just drop a trailer that shows us something crazy. I mean, the last trailer gave us Embo, and everybody loved that. But you got to think back, like, when they gave us the Mando season 2 trailer, and it was Din Djarin, and he said, I'm going to bring you back to your people or whatever, something like that. You were immediately going, who's a Jedi who's alive right now? Luke Skywalker, Ahsoka Tano, who's going to show up? And it was awesome. Yeah. And you think the same thing of like, it's tough. I'm trying to cast my mind back. Either way, you have a trailer that drops that immediately, Maul Shadow Lord. When Maul Shadow Lord was getting all this hype and everything, they drop a trailer a few days before release that is Marok kneeling before a hologram saying, my Lord Maul lives. And that made everybody lose their freaking mind. Is it Vader? Is it Palpatine? We were hyped up for it, and still we haven't seen it yet, so we're still hyped up for it. But that type of trailer hasn't dropped yet for Mandalorian and Grogu. And it's going to probably May the 4th, if I were to guess, but some point before the movie, a trailer will drop where we see a specific character, hear a specific character, get told about a specific thing that makes people just lose their minds.
Yeah. I'm going to end this poll, and then I want to get some predictions. I know you'll probably go over them on your show, but right now Mandalorian and Grogu is at 60% and Ahsoka season 2 is 40%, which I would guess because again that's coming out next. Yeah, so people are hyped about that, you know. So let's see predictions for 5 and 6. I know we talked a little bit about them at the beginning, but Nick, what's your take on the next 2 episodes?
I think Inquisitors happen. I don't think that's crazy to think, considering the episode is named Inquisition.
Yeah.
I think Strange Allies, which is the other episode name, right? Or is that later?
No, Strange Allies is second to last.
That's later.
It's Night of the Hunted, yeah.
Night of the Hunted. I think that has more to do with them basically being forced to be around Maul. Here, let's put the episodes up. Whether it's Devin or her and her master, potentially maybe that's where we hear her master say we can't join him, but maybe they're kind of stuck with him. You know, I don't know. But I think there's a confrontation. I think her master is the leading bet to die in this. I also think it's quite possible that both Inquisitors die. even though we see the crow later, his head also evaporates when Ahsoka kills him. I don't know. But I think this might be where, in the show, obviously, I think is where we get Marok at least dying and getting the Dathomir treatment to come back. But I don't know. I think Maul is going to get somewhere with Devin. He's going to work on her a little bit. I think, Ron, you were right earlier. There's going to be some kind of weird revelation with Brenda Lawson's wife in the Empire. I don't think he would bring that up for her to not be a part of what happens. Yeah. Whether she's on that ship or whether he contacts her to help him out. Like, I don't know. I think Brenda Lawson's going to get continually bigger in this. I think in a weird way, the antagonists and protagonists are going to be brought together in a way where they're not, they don't necessarily like it, but the Empire is going to force them in that position. Because I think Lawson's right. I think we all know he's right. The Empire is going to screw over Janix big time. And they're obviously hunting Maul and the Jedi. So I don't know. I think there might be some deaths. I think they're going to be forced to get along, and it's going to work well for Maul, but not that well. I think she's still going to be a problem for him. Like, he's not going to be able to turn her yet still. I think her big, whatever really happens with her is not going to be until 9 and 10.
Interesting.
So, yeah, I like that. I think you're spot on with the Brandon Lawson stuff. I feel like we kind of know, or we're assuming we know, where most other characters are going. Like, I mean, Nick, great theory. Master Eco Dio dying. It's you said it, not me. It's a great theory. But Devin, we assume, is going to fall to the dark side or something along those lines. Maul, we know where his story ends. So for the most part, those characters we know, or we assume we know. Brander is an interesting one because he has been a main character thus far, arguably the main character, because we're learning everything through him almost, because he's the good guy. But he's not just going to disappear when the Empire shows up. We're going to have to see how he deals with the Empire. Like you said, his wife, how that works. That'll be great to see too. But that'll be really interesting to watch unfold with Brander Lawson. Going back to the others, I'd love to see them sort of, team up against the Empire. That'll be great to see. But I think it's more so going to be Maul versus the world. And we have that one specific teaser trailer or TV spot, whatever you want to call it, where Maul is extremely injured, like limping his way through a sewer. And I think that could be the result of this week's episode. I think he could lose a fight to 2 Inquisitors and 2 Jedi. Like, he's not a god. He's going to lose that fight. So we could see that, like, mid-season, episode 5 and 6, mid-season, takes a step back and Maul loses. Because so far, he's been just winning. He's been winning over and over and over again. So we might see him take a loss in these 2 episodes coming up.
Yeah. No, and I agree with a lot of that. I think it'll end on, so 1, 2, 3, 4, so 5. I think 5 will end on that spot where he says Lord Maul's still alive, because I think they come in, we got 20 minutes, 25 minutes, whatever it is, for them to start looking for him. Again, the same type of thing. We're possibly going to see, one of the Inquisitors, I forget whether it's the Crow or Morok, if questioning her, where is Maul, and he says, I'm right here. And he comes down, they go at it, but I don't know if he will be injured at the end of episode 5 or at the end of episode 6 and give us another cliffhanger. But I definitely think that at the end of episode 5, they'll give us that cliffhanger of, hey, Maul is still alive. The Brander Lawson thing is going to be interesting. I think we could see, and I think Holly set it up in here, I think we could see his ex-wife just in a small part of this, now that the Empire is here, whether it's in a hologram or his son goes there, or she's on the ship. We don't know what she does for the Empire yet. We have the picture of her that's sitting on his desk, but we don't know what she is. So I think that
Yeah.
I think there's a little bit of a mystery there. I know everybody was talking about how what was the name of the uncle in Andor? You know, everybody was like, "Oh, who is this going to be? Is it going to be somebody?" You know, and he really wasn't anybody.
Yeah.
But I think them saying that she works for the Empire, we will. I think we will see her. I think that at the end of 6 here, we could possibly see her Devin start to turn towards Maul. I don't know if Eco Dio will die this week or not. I would say probably by 6, and then 7 will get her to start, just really being pissed off and move in a little bit closer with Maul and start to team up with him, because then we're only got 4 more episodes. So there's going to be a big switch in there. So, I think I think these will be right now. They're going to be the 2 most exciting episodes so far. As much as the first 4 have been awesome, and we've had some great lightsaber battles, and we've learned a lot of things, I think we're going to get more of that in 5 and 6, and I think these are going to be peak Star Wars. Where my opinion is I'll probably go up to 9.5, if not a 10, in these 2 episodes, because I've been looking forward to seeing these Inquisitors come and see what's going to go on between Maul and Devin. And we might not see the 2 of them team up against the Empire yet, but I think it'll be very close to that. And I think these are going to be some pretty cool episodes this week.
Yeah, you got to keep in mind too, like you said, we could be getting peak episodes here. The critics who have given it 100% on Rotten Tomatoes have seen the first 8 episodes. So they've seen what's coming, and they've said that is a 100 out of 100. So that's pretty high praise. And I've heard people talk about episode 3 and 4, or just episode 4, I guess, specifically, saying that it's like one of their favorite episodes ever this week, which is awesome. But I think you're right. I think coming up here, these next 4 episodes that the critics have seen and we haven't are going to be just even a next level up from what we got this week, which is saying something.
Yeah. And I would have to agree with Holly here on this one too. I think that if we're going to see Vader, we might see him in the hologram. I think it'll possibly be Palpatine, but you might be right, with it being Vader. But I think if we're going to get him, it's going to be that cliffhanger. I don't think we're going to get him coming in 7 or 8 or even 9 or 10 to try to take Maul out. As we all know, neither one of them are going to lose or die. At least though somebody will lose, but they're not going to die. So that'll be interesting to see there.
I think I guess it depends on what you think about Maul's story, but thematically it would fit in more if it is Palpatine, or rather Darth Sidious, that is deciding what to do with him. Because like Vader at this time is Vader, right? This is not like Anakin, who we feel bad for anymore. Like, we're in the middle of him kind of like earning his reputation, in which case, like, what connection other than this is that guy who killed Qui-Gon that I never saw again, what sort of like tension would be built there between him and Vader, other than Vader eventually coming to like settle the scoreboard because he was sent to. I think thematically, especially with Maul's like experience in the Clone Wars, Palpatine being involved to some extent is kind of implied. So I think if Marak is reporting to Vader, we eventually get a conversation of Vader and Palpatine about it, or a revelation at the end or something. But I think either one of them is coming up in these, at least via Holo, in these next 2 episodes.
Yeah, that would be great. I like the cliffhanger that we have this week, the Star Destroyer coming over Janix, and I think we're going to end on another one next week.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I have a couple more things. Unless you guys got any more in reference to the 3 major projects coming out, I just wanted to talk a little bit of just regular old Star Wars and stuff is, and I know Nick, you had said that this was pretty awesome, but I finished Catalyst, and if you guys haven't read that, it's another James Luceno. He's the author of it. First of all, if you haven't checked it out already, go check out our interview with James Luceno. It's awesome. He's a fantastic guy, along with obviously being a fantastic writer. But it builds up. I mean, you have, and there's no spoilers in it. I'm not going to give you any spoilers, but you have Saw in it. You have Krennic. You have Galen. You have Jin. You know, it's the whole build up to and coming into Andor, and actually coming into Rebel Rising, which is the book with Jen, where she's like a teenager and she's with Saw for those years before he kicks her out, as we all know in Rogue One, when she's like 16 or 18 or whatever it is, which again builds on to Andor, which builds on to Rogue One, which builds on to A New Hope. But it's a very well done book if you guys like Plagueis. And I think this is actually canon, correct, Nick?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And then to build on to that, after that was done, I started Brotherhood, which is nice. Have you read that one, Nick?
I think I started it one time.
Okay.
And then
it's Obi-Wan and it's Obi-Wan and Anakin mainly. Yeah, and during the Clone Wars, and there's a bunch of Padme in there as well. So it's cool. And again, those and I know Mike and I have talked about it, and I know Nick, you've read a ton of them, but it helps build up like these animation things do. Like, it helps build these stories so we get a better idea of what's going on in some of this other stuff that maybe we're not too happy with, and we've always talked about Shadow of the Sith and the sequels, but this book is really cool, the Catalyst. So if you haven't checked that out, and I know it's probably 2016 or something like that, so I mean it's been out for a while, but it's still very entertaining. Brotherhood I think came out in 22, so that's not too far in. Yeah, and that's pretty that's really good so far. I just started it, so but again, thanks to everybody for joining us. We are man, this time flew by. I mean, I was like we felt like we just started, and it was like an hour and a half in, just but talking about Maul and all the stuff that's going on in the Star Wars universe, I think is really cool. Again, Mike is tomorrow 2:00, Saturday 2:00 Eastern time. A guy who loves Star Wars, and then he's doing a live watch party again on Sunday night, Monday morning.
Oh yeah.
I did not make it. I don't know if I'll make it this Monday, but I get up at 5:30, so I'm up, and that's the first thing I'm doing is I'm turning it and watching it. But if you are up at that time, or you want to, if you haven't already, go check out Mike's live stream. They really are fun. It's just you have a whole bunch of people in there, with the comments. Mike you get to see Mike's reaction to some of the things coming out, which is fun to watch him. But thanks everybody for being here. We had a really good crowd tonight. Appreciate you guys joining in on the polls and even your predictions for next week. I was sort of trying to read them and listen to Mike and Nick give their explanations as well. So really appreciate you guys, joining in the conversation. Please make sure you tell your friends and subscribe and do all those fun things. And I forgot that we did not wait a minute.
Oh, can't leave without that.
No, we almost forgot Grogu there, So thank you guys for being with us again. And we will see you next week on a Star Wars Jedi Chat. Again, like I said, check out Mike tomorrow. Mike, Nick, thank you guys for being with us. Everybody else, may the Force be with you, and we'll see you on the next Star Wars Jedi Chat.